O Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Hey friends, today I want to reflect with you about Zaccheus and Jesus and us. And I want to do that as I also draw for you. Prince Peace, it's been a little while since I've drawn for you, and I just feel led to share that once again. So we meet Zaccheus in Luke's Gospel in chapter 19, and we find out a couple of things about Zaccheus right out of the gate. One, he's a chief tax collector. So he is a Jewish sellout to the Roman occupiers. He's working in collaboration with the Romans to collect the taxes the Jews didn't want to be paying. And he's not just any tax collector, he's the chief tax collector. He's at the top of this pyramid scheme, right? And then secondly, we learn that he's wealthy. Yeah. He's made his living not only by being a tax collector, but by skimming a little extra or a lot extra off the top and putting it in his own pocket. And then thirdly, we find out about Zaccheus that he is short. And so the story goes, he couldn't see over the crowd, so he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree in order to try to see Jesus. But the subtext of this whole story, in light of everything that we know about Zaccheus, is this. Zaccheus isn't just short. He is hated. Zaccheus is hiding out. He is hunkered down. He is hated and isolated. He is seeking to see, but not be seen. Because to be seen by the crowd, or to dare to ask somebody to step aside and be noticed in a public setting, would have been incredibly risky for Zaccheus. So he's seeking to see, but not be seen. Friends, have you ever experienced that? You're curious enough that you want to look in. You have a feeling there's something good going on there, something worthwhile, something that warrants your attention, but you don't want to be seen there. To be seen there is a whole other level of risk you just don't want to entertain. Maybe we can relate to Zaccheus more than we thought. And here he is, hunkered down and hiding out in this tree. He's stuck there. Let's consider as well what Zaccheus' way of life may have been like leading up to this moment. Zaccheus' life was full of old habits that died hard. Greed was running the show in his life and self-preservation. And so he was hoarding. He was taking more than he needed. Mine, mine, mine was the kind of refrain that drove him further and more because it was never enough, which led to hustle and even overwork. All the while, there's fear of what other people are thinking of him and might end up doing to him. There's shame at having sold out, and there's a restlessness that sort of undergirds the whole thing. And it's in the midst of all of this that Zaccheus is hiding out in this tree, trying to see but not be seen, but he is. And he's not just seen, but he's called out. Jesus calls him by name. Zaccheus, you come down. I must stay at your house today. Now, friends, just imagine this. How long had it been since Zaccheus heard his name called with any kind of positive connotation? How long had it been since he had heard his name called in a way that was endearing, in a way that invited connection, in a way that was rich with love and hospitality and forgiveness and grace? But here, Jesus is doing just that. And just picture this, Jesus had been passing through Jericho, as in not gonna stay there, just passing through, and he's walked through town with a curious crowd following him, and he's turned away the local hospitality, and he's come to the sycamore fig trees at the edge of town, and there he calls out the name of the most hated guy in all of town, and he says, I gotta stay with you. Hold the phone. Needless to say, Jesus doing that immediately moved the target off Zaccheus back and onto Jesus, and we hear it in the way the crowd responds. He has gone to be the guest of a sinner. They don't just hate Zaccheus anymore. They, in some ways, hate Jesus more. But Jesus does it nonetheless, and this act of hospitality, this inviting himself over at this tree resembles what Jesus did for you and me and for all the world at another tree, the cross. This is sacrificial love. And friends, Jesus says the same thing as he did to Zaccheus at that tree. He says the same thing to you and me. I must stay at your house today. For many of us, we're accustomed to connecting to God when we go away from our home, away from our everyday flow and life and relationships to this other place, this building that we call a church. And there we connect with God and we say prayers and sing songs. But how amazing is this, that in the midst of this quarantine time, this shelter at home time, this pre-planned message and theme involves Jesus welcoming himself, inviting himself into our home. Because he needs to be there, friends. He wants to meet us here, at the heart of our daily living, at the heart of our most important relationships, at the heart of all of our juggling of priorities and tasks, at the heart of our work and life as well. Jesus dares to engage a hated and hiding out man who's very wealthy and refuse the hospitality of the locals because he knows that the way to save the neighborhood was through this one guy. What if the same is true of you and me today? What if Jesus wants to invite himself over and he says to you and me, I must stay at your house today, because he knows that the way to save the neighborhood and the community is through you. And make no mistake about it, when he invites himself over, things are going to happen. They won't stay the same. New things are going to emerge, but let's be clear about this. These new things are going to be beautiful replacements for the old. All of a sudden, when Jesus is welcomed into the core of your life and your home, when he invites himself over, new things start happening. Love and joy and peace and kindness emerge. Generosity and gratitude emerge. Salvation springs forth. We start to share the things of our lives, and healing happens for those things that happened before. We dare to engage togetherness and neighborhood, and peace replaces the restlessness. And instead of worry about acquiring more and more, we know there's going to be enough. Friends, let Jesus welcome himself into your home. I must stay at your house today, he says. This is good news. Embrace it. For today, salvation has come to this house, Jesus declares. as we step into a life of sharing and generosity, a life of gratitude, having received amazing grace. This is what Jesus is all about. For the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. And all God's people said,